Good stories don't begin with everything went as planned. They begin with tension, with uncertainty, with someone standing at the edge of something unfamiliar, heart-pounding, wondering if they're brave enough to leap. That's the story people remember. That's the story you remember. Because without risk, there is no story, and without the story, there is no impact. We live in a world that praises stability and celebrates safety. But safety doesn't stretch you, safety doesn't grow you, safety doesn't shake something alive inside of you. Risk does. Risk opens the door to the unknown, not because you're reckless, but because you're willing. Willing to fail, willing to fall, and most importantly, willing to get back up with something to say. The most powerful leaders, the most inspiring people, the ones we quote and follow and look up to, they didn't become memorable because they avoided discomfort. They became who they are because they walked through it. The risk gave their story depth. The struggle gave it meaning. And their willingness to face the uncertainty is what makes them not just successful, but relatable. Because the story of playing it safe never inspired anyone. We're taught from an early age to seek safety, stick to what we know, avoid unnecessary risks. And while that instinct can protect us from danger, it can also quietly trap us in places that no longer serve us. Comfort feels good. It's familiar, predictable, and easy to navigate. But over time, comfort turns into a quiet cage. It doesn't ask you to stretch. It doesn't ask you to question. It just asks you to stay where it's warm, even if you're no longer growing there. Growth, on the other hand, doesn't live inside comfort. It lives just outside of it, where the edge is, where the unknown begins, where there's no guarantee of how things will turn out. That's the tension point where you start to see what you're capable of. The moment you step into something unfamiliar, you invite the possibility of failure, yes, but also the possibility of becoming someone bigger, wiser, more resilient than you were before. Growth doesn't happen by accident. It's a decision. One that usually involves stepping away from comfort and into uncertainty. Most people don't avoid risk because they're lazy. They avoid it because they're afraid. Afraid of what might go wrong. Afraid of being judged. Afraid of not being good enough. But those fears, while real, don't go away by staying safe. They only get louder. The only way to quiet them is to confront them with action. To take a step, however small, in the direction of something unknown. Because the edge of risk isn't just where fear lives, it's also where courage wakes up. And that's the place where stories worth telling begin. You can't know the strength of a bridge until you walk across it. In the same way, you can't fully know yourself until you're asked to step into something uncertain. Risk doesn't create character, it reveals it. It brings your values, priorities, and inner wiring to the surface in a way that comfort never could. When everything's predictable, we can coast. We can talk about courage without ever needing to use it. But the moment we stand at the edge of something unfamiliar, the masks fall away. We're left with the raw, unfiltered truth of who we are and what we believe. Taking a risk forces you to decide what matters most. Are you more committed to approval or authenticity? To short-term ease or long-term growth? Risk exposes these choices not to embarrass you, but to clarify you. In fact, some of the most pivotal moments in life are born from the courage to risk not being understood, not being guaranteed a win, not being in control. And in those moments, you often discover that you are far more capable and far more resilient than you ever realized. Risk, in this way, becomes a mirror. Not the kind that reflects your image, but the kind that reveals your essence. When you're in the middle of risk, heart racing, unsure of the outcome, you can't fake it. Your instincts take over, your integrity shows. You find out if you lead with fear or faith, if your decisions are guided by ego or by vision. These moments don't just teach you about business, relationships, or success. They teach you about you, about what kind of leader you are, about how you respond when nothing is guaranteed. That's the gift of risk. It doesn't just ask you to move forward, it invites you to look inward, and what you discover there becomes the foundation of your story. The moments that shape you aren't always the ones where everything goes right, They're often the ones where everything feels uncertain and you decide to move forward anyway. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the choice to act in spite of it. And that choice, over and over again, is what turns ordinary people into leaders, mentors, and storytellers. We remember the people who stepped into discomfort not because they had all the answers, but because they were willing to show up with their whole heart when the outcome wasn't guaranteed. That's the moment a story begins, when comfort says, stay, and courage says, go. No one ever feels brave in the moment. Most of the time it feels messy, vulnerable, exposed. But those are exactly the conditions that create something meaningful. When you choose courage over comfort, you're not just creating an opportunity for success. You're writing a story others can relate to. People connect with your journey not because it's polished, but because it's real. They see themselves in your struggle, in your setbacks, in your decision to take one more step forward. Your courage gives others permission to be courageous too, and that ripple effect is far more powerful than any quick win or temporary praise. Think about the stories you admire, the ones that moved you, that stuck with you, that changed how you see the world. Were they about playing it safe? Or were they about someone standing in the tension between fear and faith, choosing to believe in something bigger than their comfort zone? Every time you take a risk rooted in courage, you're not just living your life, you're building a legacy. One choice at a time, one step into the unknown at a time. You're creating the kind of story that people won't just hear, they'll feel. Because courage is contagious, and your willingness to walk through the fire gives others the light they need to find their way. So the next time you're standing at the edge of something uncertain, when fear creeps in and comfort calls your name, pause for a moment and ask yourself, what story will this decision write? Because the truth is, the most powerful stories you'll ever tell won't be the ones where everything went smoothly. They'll be the ones where you stepped forward when it would have been easier to shrink back. The ones where you said yes to growth, to possibility, to the version of you that doesn't exist yet, but is waiting on the other side of risk. You were never meant to play small. Playing safe might protect your pride, but it won't fulfill your purpose. The life you're called to build is one that leaves a mark. And that mark is made through brave decisions, bold steps, and the willingness to embrace the unknown, even when the outcome isn't promised. Because in the end, you won't just be remembered for what you did, you'll be remembered for what you dared to risk in the name of something greater. No risk, no story. So go out there and make it one worth telling.